Hi people, TheEmployedMoth here. Today I'll be reading a quote and just talking about it. The quote is, "Everyone wants something from you, and when they know you can't give it to them, they don't want you. Rarely, in this world, is anything unconditional." So what we're talking about here is conditional and unconditional relationships, friendships, some kind of agreement. For the most part, these things are conditional. And that's perfectly okay. That's fine. But we have to admit that they're conditional. We have to be aware of it. A friendship has to be two ways. It can't just be one person giving all the effort and energy into the friendship. There has to be reciprocation from the other person. There has to be effort from the other person. And this is perfectly fine. It's the normal thing to do. We put effort into a friendship or relationship, the other person does. We expect the other person to give as much as we do. There's going to be times where we might give less or we might give more. But over the history of that relationship, it all evens out in the long run. That's what is expected. And that's perfectly fine. However, quite often, we like to take what we want from other people to benefit ourselves. Now, that doesn't just have to be in a material sense. That can be in some kind of emotional gain, personal gain, social status. What we do is we enjoy or we like something about that other person that we desire in ourselves. And what we do is we create an ideal around that person based on what we like in them. And this is why relationships, most psychologists actually think they're more narcissistic than unconditional. Because we ourselves find the qualities that we like in another person, and those qualities are the qualities that either we need or the qualities that we already like about ourselves. We mirror each other back to us. I should put that in a different way. We mirror the other person back to them, and they mirror us back to ourselves. And when we have a relationship that is based on only liking the qualities that we like about that person and not accepting the full thing, or wanting to change them to suit the things that we like, then there is an imbalance and then there is a problem because we haven't accepted that person for all that they are. There's going to be qualities about people we meet that are not the same qualities as ours. No one is going to mirror ourselves back to us 100%. And trying to change someone in order to mirror ourselves back to us, so it justifies our existence, that's forceful. That's violence. Trying to change someone because you want them to be a certain way to meet your needs and make you feel fulfilled. That's a form of very low-level violence, or you might consider it to be more than low-level violence, but it's not physical violence, but it is controlling. Quite often when we meet people who cannot give us something, or we meet people and they know that we can't offer them anything that they want, we try to deny that person. We try to ostracize them, forget about them, reject them, push them away. Because that person can't give us what we want. However, this is our problem because that person can probably give us a lot more than we want, or we can even conceive to want. And that's where differences come into play and why differences are so positive. And instead of polarizing us and creating enemies, they actually should bring us together because that person can offer us something that we don't know. But what we have is an ego ideal about ourselves that we have all the answers and we are perfect as we are. We are whole and complete. We are the best. We are right. And that other person can't offer us anything. So what we do is we surround ourselves with the exact same people as us, and we all don't grow. Because those new people who have something to share with us we reject them. And that's one of our problems with, personal growth or stagnation. Stagnation happens when we only hear our own voice recorded and played back to us. So rarely in this world is anything unconditional. Even a parent's love for a child is conditional. The condition is that you have to be their child. You have to be their offspring, their genes, their DNA. It's a natural drive to want to protect young. And as we know, when you have an animal guardian protecting their younglings, you don't want to get anywhere near that thing. The same happens with us. We also want to protect our offspring. And there's a natural drive to want to reproduce and continue the species. And obviously that's one of the strongest drives, the drives for sex, lust, attachment. These are all natural drives that we want to fulfill in order to live a complete life. Well, a complete life biologically. And there's conditions to them. The condition with love is that we love someone, and there is a certain list of things that person has to tick in order for us to love them. Quite often we have feelings for someone, but if they don't tick all of our boxes, we have to end that relationship. If you take every relationship that's ever happened and you throw in a factor such as one of the people in that relationship not wanting to have kids, you would see so many breakups, almost above 90%. That's just speculation. But you would see so many breakups because without the purpose of procreating, a lot of people won't want to be in a relationship with that person. There's all these conditions to things. And even the love of a parent is conditional. What happens if you're not fulfilling your role as the child that they want you to be? They still love you, but they won't show signs of it. What we can strive for is unconditional love. And unconditional love comes with awareness. Awareness that we all live in groups. We all have a role to play in society. And we all impact each other. We're all suffering. We're all going through our own trials. And where the unconditional part comes in is when we understand all this and we realize that we have an impact on the greater population. Some people more than others, but we all have an impact. And we need to learn to do things, yes, for ourselves, but also for others out there. When we look to some of the great people who have lived, the most quoted people of all time, they're always the people who put others first and renounced individuality. They did things for other people. Their life became about serving other people. Imagine if we could all do that. It's an impossible thing to actually think. Just like when you hear someone studying Eastern traditions say that the only way to change the world is through enlightenment. Well, of course it is. But that's just almost impossible. We have to be real here. It's almost impossible for people to not act selfishly. And what I'm suggesting here is not to totally renounce the individual, the self, but to work on blending the two together, doing things in an unconditional way so that you help others without the need of return, and doing things conditionally. Doing them because they benefit you in some kind of way. There is no left and right here. There should be no polarization between the two. We should not dislike someone and reject them because we perceive them having nothing to offer us. And we should not completely devote ourselves to helping other people at our own expense. This should be a balance, and that is what the journey of life is about. Finding that middle ground, that balance between all sorts of things, between studying and being analytical, and then the opposite side, using your intuition, between loving someone but also drawing a hard line because you have certain demands and needs for your life, between being the best friend and speaking some harsh advice at the same time. Obviously, every single issue that has happened in the whole of society is because we have these polar opposites that continue to draw people into very hard left or right sides of identification, and then war happens between the two. War doesn't happen if there's only one side. War happens because there's two opposing sides or more. But really, there's just only one side that we need to consider, and that's being human. That's the only side that we're all on. And we find when we see things in that kind of way, there's actually more in common between us than there is different. Now, I said earlier that these differences help, spread culture, introduce people to new things, push the boundaries of what they consider to be real. That's also part of this as well. We have to realize that we're all one, but we also have to realize that we are all different at the same time. And yes, that person has a lot to offer us in differences, no doubt, and we should cherish that and utilize it as much as we can. But we have to also realize that that person is very similar to us as well. They like good food, they like good music, good movies, good books. There's more similarities and differences, or there might be more differences and similarities, whatever. But when we're navigating our way through this world, we have to understand that we are all part of the same game here. The same game. So when it comes to taking things conditionally or unconditionally, let's find a balance. Let's not have one opinion or the other between the two. Should everything be conditional? Should everything be unconditional? Why not create a balance and have both? And then this whole issue wouldn't need to be talked about. Anyway, just some ideas. The Employed Moth here, signing out. All the best.